Creating an invoice file either manually or using finance software and uploading it direct to Return to Work SA's online services for providers is a much more efficient way to send multiple invoices for processing. In this short video, I'll show you how to manually prepare an invoice file. To upload and validate your invoices, you'll need to prepare an invoice file in a specific format. Invoices that do not meet the format requirements will not process successfully. Let's go to Invoice Upload Bulk. Here it highlights that files must be comma delimited and in one of two formats, CSV or TXT, and provides the link to the file format requirements. I'll step you through a CSV invoice file in Microsoft Excel. An invoice file must contain only one header row and then any number of detailed record rows. The header row must include 8 attributes that describe the practice or payee details and the total value of the invoices being submitted. In cell A1, you'll always enter 00 to identify this as the header row. In B1, you'll enter the date the invoice file was created. Dates in an invoice file can only be in one of these two formats, day/month/ and year, or year-month-day. In C1, you'll enter the total number of detailed record rows included in the invoice file. In D1, you'll enter the total value of the invoices being submitted, which is basically the total of column O, which you'll learn more about soon. In E1, you'll enter the name of your practice or the payee. This field can contain letters, numbers, ampersands and forward slashes, but it cannot exceed 50 characters. In F1, you'll enter the practice address. The length of this field cannot exceed 100 characters and can include letters, numbers, and special characters like comma, dash, and forward slash. If you do use commas, you'll need to include double quotes around the contents. In G1, you'll enter your Australian business number, or ABN. This can be no more than 11 characters and can only contain numbers. In H1, you'll enter the words tax invoice. Now let's look at a detailed record starting on row 2. A detailed record contains 16 attributes, most of which are required. In A2, you'll always enter 01 to signify a detailed record, hence it is repeated on every row for multiple records. In B2, you'll enter the payee's invoice number. This invoice number cannot exceed 15 characters and can only contain letters and numbers. In C2, you'll enter the date the payee generated the invoice. In D2, you'll enter the claimant's claim number. This cannot exceed 8 numbers, leaving out any leading zeros, followed by a forward slash and then an additional 2 numbers. In E2, you'll enter the Return to Work SA service provider number, or if you're a medical or allied health provider, the Medicare provider number for the provider who performed the service. This field cannot exceed 8 numbers. In F2, you'll enter the date the service was provided, or commenced if over more than one date. In G2, if the same service was performed on the same date, you'll enter the time the service was provided, otherwise it can be left blank. For time, you'll use the hour:minute 24-hour format. For example, for a service provided at 4:45 in the afternoon, you'll enter 16:45. In H2, you'll enter the end date of the service, provided it's different to the date commenced, otherwise it can be left blank. In I2, you'll enter the service item code. This cannot exceed 6 characters and can only contain letters and numbers. You'll leave J2 blank. In K2, you'll enter the description of service provided. This cannot exceed 60 characters and can only contain letters and numbers. In L2, you'll enter the standard rate for the service. Where a service attracts a GST component, the rate recorded here must be the rate plus GST. In M2 and N2, you'll enter the quantity of service provided and the unit of measurement. Bear with me while I explain this. If you enter an H in N2, then the unit of measurement is hours. So if you enter 2.5 in M2, then this is equivalent to 2.5 hours. If you enter an M in N2 and then 24 in M2, then this is equivalent to 24 minutes. Finally, if you enter a U in N2 and then a 4 in M2, then this would be recorded as 4 units. In O2, you'll enter the value of service being invoiced. This should be equivalent to the standard rate entered in L2 multiplied by quantity of service entered in M2. In P2, you'll enter the GST inclusive flag. Enter Y if the value in L2 includes a GST component, otherwise enter N. Now save the Excel spreadsheet as a CSV and with a relevant file name. Finally, ensure the file size is less than 1 megabyte.